And we're on officially.
Welcome, Cedric, to the Miles Ahead podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
And
Yeah,
you're
it's
you're in Oakland, California right now?
Yep, yeah, that's where I live.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm so excited for this conversation. Miles and I have been hyped up for the last week to learn more about you. I basically stalked you online and
Ah,
found some of your details. And it sounds like you were laying low in France when you discovered this career path. So jump us into it.
yeah. When I shifted my career path, I actually was in California already. I was in Half Moon Bay, California. I was working for the Ritz-Carlton hotel company. I was director of restaurants, means I was managing the restaurants for them. And in 2009, the economy shifted drastically, and I how can I say that? I didn't feel congruent with the company policy at the time. And so it was a good sign for me to look at something else that I had in mind for a long time, which was working with emotions. And so I quit my job and I went back to France to join a research program on somatics for 2 years and then came back in the US.
love it. It
So you had this little seed that was already planted that you wanted to come back to later on in your life, and you saw the opportunity. Where did that seed come from?
Um, Few things I would say. I think the first questioning that I had was observing my grandfather, who passed away last year, was almost 101, was a
wow,
World War II veteran.
wow.
And he was what you call in French in the maquis. That means he was with this man who hide in the forest, wait for specific messages, and
Mm,
then do operations.
mhm.
It was, as I grew up, right, as an older teenager, young adult, it was interesting to me to observe how himself and men from his generation who lived similar experiences were able to be resilient without any type of mental health or workshop or even veteran hospitals. Right after World War II, they moved somewhere and they had to survive.
Mhm.
And the level of resilience always was um, very interesting to me. So that was the first thing. The second thing was some personal things. I was very anxious and a lot of anger. I had a lot of anger, mostly self-directed. And the third thing was working actually for the Ritz, because I had the opportunity to manage a lot of people, first in banquets and then in restaurants. And you can see that you don't manage people, you manage their emotions.
Ah,
You know, you
mm,
manage the emotion. Where with who do they like to work? What kind of a party? What kind of guests? So it's constantly a strategy so people feel as much at ease as they can, so they can shine and actually enjoy the job. Uh, so that was kind of like the three pillar of what made me shift into to something that I was always interested in.
that's
Mm.
beautiful. I saw your Instagram post where you're walking through the forest back home, and
Yep,
it was bringing back the memories and how those are still so implicit to us.
yep.
Or is
It's
that
an ex
is that explicit or implicit memory? I can't remember.
explicit, I guess, or implicit.
Explicit. Yeah. I can't remember which one it is. But yeah, it was it made a lot of sense to me. It's like how we have these cues and triggers. Like if you go to your childhood home,
Yeah.
magically all these emotions will just arise and you're not even really thinking about them. So is that what that's kind of what you were talking about in that video, I think.
Absolutely, that's it. It's like going in the video, I was just going through the path. I used to live in the forest. I come from a very small village where 80 people in
Whoa.
the forest. Yeah.
Wow.
That's why I can dress like this because my dad actually was a lumberjack. I think anybody who can dress like this and you have some kind of, you know, right to it.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So I spend a lot of time in the forest. And it's amazing when you walk those paths, even like moment of guilt or shame from teenage time just come as a flash out
Yeah.
of nowhere.
Hmm.
And as you said, when you go into your childhood home or anything, if you pay attention to the flesh, I would say. Like you realize a part of your flesh is being pulled to the past. These are precious moments because these moments are a potential to resolve stuff
Mm.
that's still working inside of you like ghosts, right?
Yeah.
I often say we're like a bunch of haunted houses.
Yeah.
Our ghosts are always there. Sometimes they're awake, sometimes they're not. But as long as you don't approach them and let them go back to where they belong, the past, they work you a way or another, in a way or another.
And I'm sure there's a lot of crossover with internal family systems therapy, I'd imagine, in that regard, and maybe EMDR and things like that. Um, that are
Yeah.
were you the creator of emotional resolution, or is that this is your thing?
Emotional resolution is it's a teamwork. So
Teamwork.
it's Dr. Jacques Fumex from Lyon, Didier Godot, who is a physical therapist and now live in a small island called the Réunion, next to
Mm.
Madagascar, and myself.
Wow.
It's really a teamwork, and it's because we are coming from very different background
Mhm.
that I think we're able to achieve a work like this, which is not achieved, right? It's still evolving. Everything is always evolving.
Yes.
When it comes to the family system or EMDR, EmRes is quite different, but I think that when things resolve, it's always the same thing that's happening in the brain. It doesn't matter how you enter it, EMDR, EFT, psychotherapy, it doesn't matter. I think
Right.
when there is a change, it's always the same thing that happens in the brain. It's now an updating of a prediction.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I love that. It seems like it could be quite healing, and there's just so many people that will do talk therapy, and they'll just talk about the logical part about what's happened in their past, and they kind of just keep that's where they stop, and they don't go within the body. They don't talk about the emotions, and they kind of get stuck, And so modalities like this, I think can be very, very helpful. And when I was reading through your website, it was like sign up for the free 8-step thing. I was like, yeah, I'm already
Mhm.
signed up. So I'm really, really interested. I'm always wanting to learn more. And one thing on the website that really stuck out was about Lisa Feldman Barrett, who
Yeah,
said that the limbic system actually is not the cradle of the emotion.
yeah.
That's mind blowing. She's like massive in our field. She's been on Huberman Lab and Connor Beaton's podcast. That's huge. That's really huge because that's what we always thought.
That's right. And at the beginning, when she came up with her whole theory that was very well researched, people really were hard on her.
I
Like
bet.
even in the book, she explained her book, she explained how people were just like, almost like pushing her away, what do you know? But I mean, now, as you said, she is a top in the neuroscience of emotions.
Mhm.
And it's all based on this principle of prediction. We used to do EmRes without understanding why it was working.
Mm.
We simply noticed in a way that when you have an emotion and you just move your attention not to the surrounding, not to why you have an emotion, but to the sensations,
Mhm.
and you let the sensations change without any type of control from yourself or from a therapist.
Mm.
At the end, when the sensations abate, the emotions was gone. So we noticed the effect of this simple process way before understanding. For me, her work was the key that I was missing. It says, yes, it's just a prediction. It is an interoceptive prediction. Interoception being the physical sensation that let us know how we feel.
Yeah.
Or hungry, thirsty, angry, anxious, anything. It's interoception, right?
Yeah.
It's a debilitating emotional pattern is an outdated prediction, interoceptive prediction from the brain.
Uh-huh. That's
So
sort of
that,
like
yeah,
where we can make a narrative out of the emotions that are coming up as well, I would
that's
imagine.
correct.
Hmm.
Absolutely. It's what is an emotion? It's a conceptualization of
Hmm.
the physical sensation that we feel. We feel
Hmm.
some physical sensations and we're going to conceptualize them based on our history, on our personality, on the event that create that emotion.
Yeah. It's an amazing how long they stay with us in the nervous system as well. It sounds like it's marrying the cognitive with the somatic in a way, but more focusing on really the somatic part. And maybe you need the memories of the cognitive part to jumpstart it, the actual emotion, but really just sitting with the feeling of the emotion. Is that kind of the thrust of what you guys are trying to get at?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. In a session, we'll be using a specific memory, but never a traumatic memory.
Never. Okay.
Never, ever. I
Okay.
think it's re-traumatizing and
Mm.
almost cruel for somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
because a trauma cannot be healed. That's a good, how can I say that? It's a good title, right? Trauma healing.
Of course. Yeah.
But trauma cannot be healed because trauma happened.
Yeah, you can't get rid of it.
You cannot get rid of it. It
Mhm.
happened,
Mhm.
unfortunately. Now, what can be healed are all the impacts, the wounds that this trauma created in our life. So the way that we're gonna approach it are like wounds by wounds. Today
Mm.
in your life, doesn't matter what the trauma was, doesn't matter if you even remember the trauma.
Mm.
Today, what do you notice? What do you see?
Mhm.
All the emotional difficulties that are negatively impacting you. And
Mhm.
we're gonna go one after another and resolving them. Mhm.
I love that because a lot of our pain could be pre-verbal. Like you could be made to have cried it out as a child, and you have no memory of how painful that was, but your body sure the heck does. And so, why do I
Absolutely.
feel highly anxious all the time? Why do I have hypervigilance going on in the background all the time? I would imagine that this modality can target that. Like you said, you don't have to actually have the memory, which is huge because a lot of people go to therapy and are like, I got to figure this out. Right? If I just figure it out, like I think Lori Gottlieb in her book, maybe no one should talk about it, called Insight, the booby prize in therapy. I like to call it the white elephant gift. It's like just because you know it was there doesn't mean it just goes away. It's sort of like, okay, there's a trailhead to start,
That's
but
right.
then what about I call it phase two in therapy. What about the somatic work, the feelings and things
That's
like
right.
that?
Absolutely. And a trauma can happen in utero, at birth, during the first years of life,
Yeah.
and a lot of for me, what I will call a trauma is an instant that hold too much stress, physical or emotional, for us to take on at the time when we experience it, at the time
Yeah.
when we live it.
That resonates. Yeah.
And so that depends on a lot of things, on our personality, our age,
Mm.
And there is an amazing work by a French guy called Boris Cyrulnik. Is neuro doesn't exist anymore. This job is a neuropsychiatrist. He's a psychiatrist and a um,
Neurologist?
neuroscientist.
Neuroscientist.
Neuroscientist. Mhm.
Okay.
Boris Cyrulnik, amazing guy, Holocaust survivors in his 80s now,
Wow.
and he explained that a lot of those very early on trauma can actually be resolved by themselves
Hmm.
if the environment is nurturing, right? That's what resilience is.
Ah,
Is all work is about resilience. And explain that resilience is not something that we have, right? It's like be resilient. You should be more resilient. It doesn't happen like this.
right.
Resilience happen based on what is happening around you, your environment.
So you feel safe.
That's right.
Yeah.
Safe,
Mhm.
nurturing, loving.
That hits home. I noticed you're doing a couple of big conferences with like Gabor Mate and guys like this who are amazing. I'm just finishing his book, In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, his book on
Yeah,
addiction.
beautiful book.
So beautiful. And he was just talking about something like that with healing addiction. And that's kids growing up with the opposite of what we just said. Their brains are sort of wired to need that substance to get the soothing they never had or to feel not depressed to amp up and things like that, and they don't have the soothing environment. And then sort of like how NA or AA works really well is like the 12 steps are great, but it's the peer support that really helps make the work.
Create resilience. Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, this is cool stuff. We were both fired up to talk to you about all this. I'm surprised that I want to get it more out there because I think there's a big need. We have more of a male-centric audience as well, and what are we taught as men in our society is like we're just kind of cut off from the top of the head, like very logical. We don't feel things. It's okay to feel just anger. That's it. And a lot of the patients I see have a really hard time going. I kind of asked them, over time, what's going on from your throat down through your belly button, and it sometimes they get nothing. Like they're just not there yet. They don't, they might say like a pain in their head or like, oh, my bicep hurts because I worked out today. And that's a start. You're getting into the body, but like the
Absolutely.
emotional part is it's like stuffed, and it takes a while to get there.
Yep. We do something. We used to work here with before the pandemic with um, special ed kids
Mm.
in Marin County Office of Education, and kids on the spectrum. Some kids on the spectrum have a hard time to feel
Yo.
the sensations.
Yeah.
And so the way that we ease them into the work before tapping into anything emotional, we use bodily needs. So
Mm.
before they need to pee, right? They already have to pee a lot because they waited to the last. How do you know you have to pee? Okay, close your eyes. How do you know? Oh, here it tingles. Okay, perfect. Now go. So we
Bingo.
start creating an intimacy with bodily needs,
Love it.
hunger, thirst, needed to pee or poop, because all this is interoception. And you know when you have to pee, right? Even if you block, okay, I just know it. No, but that's too easy, buddy. How do you know it that you have to
Yes.
pee?
It's
Like
deeper. Yes.
that's it. And that creates an intimacy with the body. That creates, okay, that's
Ah.
okay. I'm getting back in
Mhm.
touch with what's going on.
Mhm. And intimacy with the body. I love that. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, this is gonna be so helpful for a lot of guys, I think, and women too. I think they're, and like you said, with trauma, it hits everybody. I would imagine that this really helps anybody with trauma. But I agree with the re-traumatization. We got to be careful with that one. And I know there's a lot of school of thought on that topic, as Dr. Huberman calls it, that maybe a barbed wire topic. Like,
Yeah,
everyone has their idea of like when you go to your trauma conference, like Peter Levine and Gabor Maté will have a different take, and you guys
absolutely.
will talk it out, which would be amazing. But
And you know, it's very right or wrong. I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
what matters is that it works.
Mhm.
One of the reasons why we never go to the trauma is, from what we understand today neurobiologically, is that at the origin of any debilitating emotional pattern, yes, it's a trauma, but within the trauma, what creates the pattern is the instant of dissociation.
Mm,
So it's when there's a dissociation,
mm,
uh, and I can tell you why if you're interested, but it's when there's dissociation that there is a seed planted for later on a debilitating emotional pattern.
mm.
Now, I guarantee you that if I'm being, let's say, raped or bullied in the bus and punched, I'm not going to dissociate only once. I'm going to go in and out, in and out, and in and out. And every time I go
Oh,
out, it's an opportunity for a pattern.
wow.
So going back into like a general traumatic event, first of all, if it's longer than 3 months, it will be changed, because after 3 months, a memory is still reliable. That's not what I'm saying, but we're shifting every time we think about something, we're shifting it
Correct.
based on our personal history, our personality, what we hear, what we've been told, etc.
Hmm.
So what's the point? Going into a general trauma, you might have dissociated so many times within 5, 10 minutes.
Sure.
And each one is an impact. Let's go into the impact.
That makes so much more sense. Yeah, the dissociative aspect. I love how Gabor Mate sort of talks about with attachment wounds can set some kids up for ADD, because that's the move, right? Let me
Mhm.
just check out. I'll just
Right.
dissociate. What are you setting up? ADHD or ADD? Um, yeah, that really does make sense. The going in and out in the trauma.
Yeah.
Um, so taking it slow. And I'm sure you guys take a top-down approach and ease in, but you don't. We're not trying to go and recreate the whole experience in some way to magically make a new sense out of it of some sort.
No, no,
Mhm.
absolutely not.
Mhm.
Uh, uh, in a nutshell, what I can tell you is, from what we understand, and that's based on Lisa Feldman Barrett work, huh? Uh,
Mm.
when there is a dissociation, the prefrontal cortex, the conscious brain, so to speak, shut down. So we don't suffer too much during that
Mhm.
moment.
Correct.
Even for 1 second, tack.
Mhm.
When this is happening, the subconscious takes over.
Mm.
So one of the main job of the prefrontal cortex of the conscious mind is to filter information. So basically what we are aware of right now, the three of us, is about 2,000 bits of information um, processed at the speed of 150 miles per hour.
Wow.
That's what we are aware of. 2,000 bits at a speed of 150 miles per hour.
Wow.
The subconscious, in the same time, has a potential to gather 400 billion bits of information.
Oh my God.
It's crazy, huh? At the speed of 150,000 miles per hour.
Wow.
So when we dissociate and the conscious is not here to filter, the subconscious take over. Imagine like a vortex
Wow.
opening up and gathering all the informations happening around in a very non-logical, non-linear way. And
Yes.
it's all very sensorial. What you taste, what you see, the shadow, the temperature, uh, everything happening sensorily around you through the five senses. And also, it is going to record what physical sensation you're feeling at this instant.
Mm. Hmm.
And then, well, you come back and it's kind of like the vortex stops.
Mm.
Well, later on, well, we got to know that one of the main jobs from the brain is to predict. The
Yes.
brain predict constantly, constantly, constantly based on past experiences. That's why we keep on being ahead.
Hmm.
And you can probably notice that if you add a food before, let's say an apple, a Granny Smith apple, you're having a first Granny Smith apple when you're like, say, I don't know, 4 years old. And you're having this experience of like the crunchiness, the acidity, and the juice. Wow, you're having a first experience.
Hmm.
But if you're having another Granny Smith apple 6 months, 6 years, 10 years after, before biting this apple, your brain is going to predict already what physical sensations you're about to feel.
Wow.
You don't even have to bite it. It's happening. Huh? It's
Uh-huh.
the same for an emotion. After a trauma, when I say the body is the brain and the body, everything, when the body finds itself in a situation where it recognizes one or several elements that were present during one specific trauma, your brain, my brain, is going to predict instantly what physical sensations I'm about to feel based on what was felt during a specific trauma.
Mm.
Those physical sensations
Hmm.
is what lets you know that you're feeling an emotion. These
Ah,
physical sensations is the interoception.
that's interoception.
You see? And the problem is we never let this interoception play until the end. We control it. We
Yeah.
deny it, like guys are good for that, they deny it.
Yeah.
Or you're angry, so you scream, or you punch something, that's releasing the tension. Or you're getting help, or you breathe, you do something, but you never let this prediction playing out until the end.
Interesting.
That's what EmRes is. EmRes is letting the prediction play out until the end without any type of control, inner control or somebody from the outside.
Mm.
When the prediction, meaning the sensations, plays out until the end, at the end of the prediction, the brain is anticipating to be hit by some kind of danger.
Yeah.
The thing is, if you do it on yourself in a safe place or you do it with a practitioner, at the end of the prediction, you're safe and sound.
Mm.
From that very instant, the prediction is updated.
There we go. The first impression's been updated.
That's it.
Hmm.
Because we update prediction constantly in our life. Like we update prediction constantly in a matter of seconds. So people say, how can an emotion you've been carrying for 10 years be resolved in a matter of minutes? Well, that's not magical. It's actually how the brain works.
Mm.
We constantly update prediction. That's how we learn.
What
Correct.
you're describing is exactly learning. And you answered the questions that I had at the beginning of the hour just through your talk with Miles, because what you're talking about, the MRES, the process that you're describing, seems like the natural way that we learn. And then we have this experience, and that disassociation interrupts the cycle, interrupts the process for it landing with the lesson and the integration of the experience. And that disassociation, when you ameliorate that and you allow that loop to actually complete, you have changed it. You have changed it, and you're free, right? Is that right?
It's correct.
So, is there a relationship between that disassociation and learned helplessness, or even ADD behaviors? Like when you think about interrupting the cycle of learning or attention, is there any connection between those things, or am I making that up?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure to be honest, but I would say that if a kid has a hard time learning math, for example, it's already stressful enough. And if somebody is in their back breathing down their neck, raising the stress, chances are that math are not going to get in. I can tell you that first person. It's exactly what happened to me, right?
Mhm.
It's like if a child is in an environment when it's not stressed or anxious while learning, it's gonna learn much in a much easier way. And everybody is gonna be different. So increasing stress or anxiety when a kid has a hard time already understanding things is completely counterproductive.
That makes
Well, and
sense.
I mean, the rest of this conversation could just be about how we basically hardwired our education system and our family dynamics to be the opposite of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, I receive fathers, and I will always remember this guy who came to see me. He was sent to me by his wife because which is never a good thing, right? You want the person to come by themselves. But
Yes.
the reason why he came was because when his kid wasn't doing his homework, it was or like he was seeing his kid just not doing them and just like looking around and going around. It was just angry
Mm,
and showing anger and screaming.
mm,
And this gentleman came, and first of all, he didn't want to change it. He didn't want to change his behavior because for him, screaming at the child was his only way to get the child to do the work, right?
yikes.
Which
Mm,
is not it's not the reality of things. And
mm,
so I didn't insist. And when people don't want to do it for themselves, usually I don't work with them. But I
mm,
asked the question, but if you think about it, at the instant when you're about to scream at your child, what are you really afraid of?
mm.
And the answer was right away. It was like, I'm afraid that he becomes just like me. You
Well,
know, I didn't have a chance to go to school. I don't have a job that I like. I hate what I do, and I don't want him to be like me. You know? And then we tapped, and then right there we went into the body. Like, what
mm,
sensations are you feeling in your body? Right there, because that's the key, right? For him, the screaming was the solution. It
mm.
was, and he cannot help himself. If he could, he would have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the I think, you probably obviously had, yeah, a lot of experience doing that, but I feel like if you interviewed, 100 parents, 80 of them would probably say that, and the other 19 would say, I don't know any other way to do it. But yeah, that's the jam. Um, good you're doing the Lord's work.
I don't know about that, but it's uh, I think the most difficult for us is to accept our emotion.
Yes.
I think is the first step, right? Accepting our emotion. And as parents or individuals, there are some emotions that we feel that we're ashamed of.
Yes.
I receive moms that are ashamed of being angry or even disgusted to their children. No, the first thing is you feel an emotion, you got to accept it.
Mm,
That's it. Because if you don't accept it, there's no way that we can shift it.
mm,
And it can be anger, it can be shame, it can be guilt. Accept it so we can adapt to it and act on it.
hmm I think myself and for some other for a lot of people they're afraid of when they access their emotions, especially men, that it's been bottled so much that it's just going to keep going and they want to know what's the timeline? Like, am I going to get lost in this? Is it going to stop? They're afraid they're going to get flooded and for their whole day or 2 days or weekend, it's going to be screwed because there's a wash and whatever. But I'm willing to bet that's actually not the case with what you guys are doing.
It's 90 seconds.
90 seconds. Whew.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is 90 seconds when you're able to move into the body and feel all the sensations at once. It is 90 seconds. What takes a long time is an accumulation of emotion, the anger,
Mm,
then the shame, then the guilt. It's
mm,
and it's the wave is ramping up very quickly. But what we do with EmRes, we go to the beginning of the emotion.
mm,
What emotion do you want to work on? And we go there. Like at the beginning, when the emotion started.
mm,
When the emotion go on and on and on, it's not only one emotion. It's it's emotion. We build emotion upon emotions as human beings, and we just feed, and then a thought and more emotion and the thought, and then somebody comments, and then you see something, and then you think again about what you said. It's ongoing. Yeah, it can take days. For some people it takes years, really.
mm.
you know
In and out, in and out.
in and out.
Mm. The pushing it away it reminds me of Jung's shadow. I mean, that's where all that's going in the unconscious. And then it's there and it's still ever present. And, stuff that happens when you're 3 still messes with you.
Yeah, yeah, and then you think it's you, right? You think it's that you are an angry person, or that you it becomes, in a way, you don't question it anymore because it has been going on for so long that you think that it's you who have a problem,
Mhm.
and that's your personality.
Yeah, it's my personality, right? And it
Yeah,
very well could not be my story or any so to speak emotion. Yeah, could be my father's emotion or my
that's
mother
right.
and their pain. Yeah, stuff gets passed down. You hear about the Holocaust survivors, like grandkids having trauma symptoms, and you're like, well, how is that possible? I would imagine it's something similar to that, like the
Yeah,
passing of the behaviors.
absolutely. I think it's a mix of that. Right? It's something that goes through through genes, maybe. I don't know. I think there's Rachel Yehuda study that a lot, and I know a conclusion change over time. Is it transmitted, so to speak, through a gene or through behaviors? I
Mm.
think it might be just, a mix of both.
A mix of both, I'd imagine. Yeah.
Well, you know, you were talking about people who identify with their toxic trait or their, oh no, or the emotions they're trying to avoid, like anger or shame or whatever. Um, what when you were talking about this whole process, the the part that is that speaks to me, and I think it speaks to more in the male audience, is this maybe it's an element of the dissociative behavior or experience, but it is like it's almost this unwillingness to value our own personal experience in the world and like I feel like I certainly had we'll call it a high risk mindset where I didn't really care whether or not I lived or died. And this is something that I felt was kind of useful when I was in the army, where I was very much okay with the next mission maybe being my last one. And that sort of detachment from what was going to physically happen to me um, and maybe it was even conditioned a little bit. But I also find the male brain, it sort of syncs up with that a little bit, as though there's a little bit of less motivation to repair inconvenient experiences. And it's like, I I always feel that I am instantly aware if something's not working for me, but that's independent of whether or not I want to do anything about it. There's a bit of a gap between, okay, this is a toxic or this is a dysfunctional behavior, but it's not necessarily something I'm willing to change. Maybe identify with it, or maybe I'm like, so what? Maybe that's just one thing in life I don't have access to, and who cares? So there's a little bit of, I think there's a self-evaluation going on. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. And so my question to you is, why do you think? Because I don't know. Why is that? Why is that we observe something toxic? And if something is toxic for me, chances are this toxicity is going to ripple on my family, on my friends, etc., etc. So what is it with, let's take men? Why is it that we have a hard time to actually enter it? I mean, it's in a way it's also an act of courage, right? To look, to
Yes.
feel inside. It's like, okay, well, I recognize it. Okay, there's a lot of guys that come to see me with porn addiction,
Mm.
right? It takes them a while to even recognize it's an addiction, and then to like, okay, but let's see what creates it. Why do you think?
Mm.
Well, for me personally, uh, my a lot of my early experiences were very much in alignment with what you had said, is that overwhelming stress, we'll call it, creates sort of a trauma. And I think that the my experience of the world was so much drinking from the fire hose. It's painful, it's fast paced, it doesn't really matter whether I'm ready or not, things just keep coming. And then I sort of then created a life around that mirrored and matched that expectation, that prediction. And so it was difficult to change the simulation. And until something was really until I drove the car all the way in the wrong direction and it ran out of gas, I wouldn't just change anything about the course of action that I was on. And I have about 150 examples. That's most of what our podcast is examples of things that weren't working for me personally. But 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 I think that part of it is the experience now matches an experience that I had in the past. And even though it was uncomfortable, I'm still okay. And I would say even until maybe the last 3 years, I could intellectually have this conversation, but it wasn't landing because of that disassociation.
Yeah.
So like disassociation, mirroring past experiences, and and then having some even tiny reward for changing the behavior.
Yep. In a way, what you're describing is an abusive relationship with yourself.
Ooh,
right?
So good. You fucking nailed it,
you
Doc.
gotcha.
You know, it's like how many couples stay together and one is being abused, but it's safer almost to stay there, right? There's a
Yeah,
almost, but it's safer. It's just what
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
That's how you thrive. That's how even it's more than surviving. You know, we use like survive. It's how you thrive. It's safe. It's what you know. It's even if it's in the danger, it doesn't matter. It's
Hmm.
it's it's kind of an abusive relationship with self.
Mm. I see that for myself too. Yeah, that hit home when you said that. Yeah.
Well, and I there's an element of so let's stick with I'm gonna use the business metaphor business example, and then let's stick with the relationship metaphor because I think it's so good. Because one of the reasons why toxic relationships stick together is because the parts of you that have to change, those broken parts of you don't fit in a regular relationship. They only fit in a toxic relationship. And so like my previous business, I was running a gym, but I didn't design my business that way because the gym that I was in went out of business. So I had to purchase it, had to work really hard. So I was in this sort of place where I kind of had a business, but I had to work like 14-hour days and it was a lot. And I didn't really know how to evolve it in a way that would make it look like what I wanted to look like. And then the relationship metaphor, that is like, okay, this isn't working. But if I can do some different things and start to model boundaries and things, what it will reveal is that this isn't set up to actually be a successful relationship. And so the good actions I was taking in the old business actually kind of broke apart the business because I literally grew past it. And I think that the reason why I lingered is because it was so painful to leave that experience that I wasn't ready to let go of and scared.
Yeah, absolutely. And also like you involve yourself. I mean, I've been in similar relationship with work, right? It's like you put so much of yourself in it and all your heart and energy and time and money that to actually have the freedom. People are afraid of freedom if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
Because if to take the freedom to rethink everything, redo everything. Wow, yeah, it takes a lot.
Sure does.
And it reveals and it also this is so good. I'm playing right into your book here because then what I lost is I lost all these addictive behaviors of being obsessed with something else. So I didn't have to actually be okay with being alone with myself. If I had 14-hour days, I was always tired. I didn't really have time for emotions. I didn't
That's
really
right.
have tired time for healthy relationships. So it allowed me to scapegoat and I didn't have to grow.
How
Uh,
many people in the West? I say the West because I was about to say America, but it's the same in France right now. Yeah, how many people have this kind of life?
A lot.
There's so much going on,
Hmm.
and they don't have time to breathe. They don't have time to even conceptualize on what they're doing now. The script that they're living now have nothing to do with what they really want.
Mm.
It's what you're describing. I think it's the general disease of most people in the West.
Mm. Yeah.
yeah, and it is, um, and I will let you coach Miles if he's still game for it, although I think he knows he's in for it now. When you start business school in America, there's this little parable about a Mexican fisher, and I'm gonna abridge the whole story. It goes just to this guy's on a business or he's on a vacation and he has this really good fish in Mexico and he wants to meet the guy who catches the fish and he only fishes for 2 hours a day. Then he plays the guitar in the square with his friends and drinks tequila and then gets up in the morning and does it again. He's like, no, 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 you got to work a full day. You'll make so much money that you'll be able to buy a bigger boat and then make more money. And then the whole thing is he keeps scaling up and then finally, well, what would I do if I had all the money in the world? It's like, well, you could just play a guitar with your friends in the square and drink tequila every day.
I heard that. Yes, I think it's excellent.
And that's it. Because the thing that we're all afraid of is that we already have it. We've been trying to get it, and it's been with us the whole time.
Yeah, that's right.
And that with us though is we have to be our whole self to get it, and that's the painful part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
There's
mean, oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, you go.
There's I don't remember his name, is a British, I think he's a psychotherapist. I heard him on Joe Rogan actually a while ago, and they were talking about depression. And this guy said, you know, there's some people who have everything, right? They have the family, the boat, everything, and they're still depressed.
Yeah.
And he said something that I found very interesting and to the point. When you are depressed, before questioning your mental health, question your script,
Mm.
or question the script of your life.
Hmm.
That may be what you wanted 20 years ago, and that's not congruent with what you want today.
Interesting.
So you're living your life in a you're living your life in what you thought would be a dream when actually that's not it. It's to go back a little bit to what you said, Josh. It's yeah,
You sort of have to update your narratives in a way to make
yeah,
them
that's right.
congruent. Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
that
From
makes sense.
from who you are today, what do you want without nostalgia, without hope, and without fantasy?
Ooh, I like that. Without nostalgia, without hope, and without fantasy. That's huge. Yeah, because those are really seductive right there.
Mm. Yep.
Yeah.
And today, with everything you lived, right, with everything you experienced in your life, today, regardless of what you wanted 2 months ago, what is it that you want?
Mm. And that's probably something you sort of have to wake up and maybe intentionally reevaluate on a daily basis to make sure it stays that way.
That's right. That's right.
Or do EmRes so you can get the emotions out of the way that are making you make a story up that you can't do it and are shit, and off you go and you manifest this self-fulfilling prophecy that you're X, Y, and Z. Uh,
Absolutely. Absolutely. First you have to recognize and there's the fear there, right? The fear is there and that makes you continue the pattern.
mhm. I get very stuck in this myself. So maybe before I'm in the hot seat. I had a father was quite distant. I had family divorce when I was 8, and then I had to be my mom sort of relied on me to be the father of the house at 8, and I had 3 younger siblings. So he was gone, and I saw him 4 times a month. So I had not enough of him and way too much of mom and responsibility. And so I simultaneously want the masculine, want to be seen, want to be mentored, but then I'm afraid if I show emotion, then it's going to make him go away because I perceive that because I was very emotional when he left. It scared the shit out of me. I was crying and I was anxious. And then when mom comes, it's like, get away, get away, get away. And I found myself in that sort of disorganized attachment style, which like I want to be loved. And when someone comes in, it's like a wall comes up, but I
Yeah.
also still want to be loved deeply.
Yes.
Um, does EmRes work well with attachment wounds as well? I imagine it does
Yeah,
with
it does.
this sort of
It's
thing.
sometimes it takes because what you're describing there, it's a lot of emotions, right? There's a lot of emotion at plays. But yes, of course, we go one after another and the pattern shifts. Yes, 100%.
That's
all right,
beautiful.
you have 10 minutes. Make Miles a sane person.
No
Impossible.
pressure.
Impossible. Let's do something. We're gonna do so. First of all, it's not a full disclosure. This is not a full EmRes session.
Yes,
Like we're gonna do
correct.
just like one little thing. EmRes is a body of work, and there's a lot of things that we do, different modalities that we use.
Mhm.
But let's do something pragmatic that you can actually enjoy the result of.
Brilliant.
So, is there anything, any emotion that you see are coming back in your life on a regular basis that you sense as toxic or that do not serve you in your life?
Yes, the fear of being seen, or I think it comes up with shame, perhaps.
Okay.
Like my full self, or put myself out there. There's this feeling of like resistance. I'll do it later, or I'll take little steps. When I should be really. A part of me says you should be going full force, and then another part of me is like strongly resistant to that. It's sort of like a fear response.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, very well. So we're gonna start very pragmatically. Can you take me to an instant, a moment in your current life within the last few weeks when that was present for you? Mm.
Yeah. Um,
Tell me about it using the present tense. Put me there with you.
Probably it came up around technology and how to promote this podcast more. You know, a lot of people are doing video. We're trying to expand the podcast and putting everything on social media. And I just got this big like screw it, overwhelm, don't worry about it. We'll just do audio, which is not what we're trying to do. A very strong resistance to that, and I think it was out of a fear of one frustration, but of being seen.
Okay, beautiful. Now take me to the moment, one of the moment when you experienced that pragmatically, like where are you? What are you doing? When you had this moment of like, fuck it, I'm not doing it. Uh, Take me there.
I'm on my laptop messing around with Instagram, trying to connect.
Eyes open, eyes open. Keep your eyes open.
Oh, eyes open. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm on my laptop. I'm messing around with all the Instagrams, trying to get them to commingle. So when I put a post, it spits all three out at the same time. I don't have to do it individually, and
Yeah.
I really frustrated. And I just wanted to just throw in the towel.
And at what moment, if you can remember, the frustration start in you on that day?
Good question. Probably even the thought of having to go. It was before even going on there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It
And
wasn't even actually there yet. Yeah.
so when does the thought start? See if you can re-localize yourself, like in the memory.
It's my to-do list. Like this is what you've got to do. And yeah, that kicks that kicks it up. I
And
hadn't
you
even done it yet.
and you have an actual to-do list that you look and
Yeah.
that you see. Yeah.
Yep.
Do you remember looking at your to-do list on that day?
Yep.
Okay, when you're ready, close your eyes and replay that instant when you look at the to-do list and the Instagram stuff. Let me know when it plays in your memory.
It's there.
Now, what sensations are you feeling in your body right now with me?
A tightness in the chest,
What else?
anxiety down in my belly,
What else?
a little bit of lightness in the fact that I'm with somebody helping me. Like
Now
I
you,
think it's a part of me
now
that
you
wants this help.
feel the sensation simultaneously. Forget about the memory, it's irrelevant. Feel the sensation simultaneously, do nothing. Tell me how the sensations change within you.
Yes.
What's
Yes,
happening?
this sort of lesson.
Feel it change. Actively feel what's going on inside. No thoughts, nothing. Active attention. Tell me as it's changing.
A little more spacious.
Feel it change.
I also feel some sadness maybe
Now, this sadness, what makes you savor is sadness? Where is it in the body?
in my throat.
Where else?
Probably the heart center,
Ah,
mostly
so,
throat for some reason.
no, it's okay. You feel all the sensations simultaneously, just the sensations, all at once. Do nothing. Tell me as it is changing from time to time.
The first two of there is a little more spaciousness. The throat one, it feels like there's something stronger coming.
You feel it change. Widen your attention so you don't only pay attention to your throat. Feel your entire body at once. Ah, no breath, no breath. Don't try to relax it. Yeah, that's a.
Aha. Don't try to relax
No,
it.
no, 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 no.
Okay. That's a big difference. Because that's what I try to do is I try to calm it.
Back in. Don't let yourself distracted.
Okay.
Feel it change. You're
Okay.
doing well. How is it within now?
It's lighter.
Now answer the question without thinking. You mentioned earlier that you're afraid to be seen. What are you afraid that people will see in you? If you're completely transparent, what are you really afraid that people will see in you?
Um, not good, sort of a not good enough, or if I show my true self, people will distance.
Why? What is it in your true self that will make people distant? No,
I think
logically.
not
First thing.
logic, not
Yeah.
logically.
not logically.
Oof, that's a tough one for a man.
Yeah.
I have the storyline. It's definitely my dad. Like if I show my true self, he leaves. But yeah, if so, I'm asking my body that question.
Yeah, but you can never mean that. How does that make you feel to know life proved you? Then if you show your true self, people live. So how does it make you feel to live knowing that if you're truly yourself, people don't stay with you?
If I lived with the feeling that if I don't show my true self, people will leave me,
How does it make you feel to know that if you show your true self, people don't stay?
that would be terrible.
Now, sensations in the body now, in. What are they?
Like the clenching down
Mhm.
in my chest.
What else? What else?
Do we want to talk about images or is it simply somatic?
Just sensations now, just sensations. Take it.
Still the throat.
What else?
Um, a feeling of shrinking, like hiding, like shrinking
Ah.
down.
So you feel all that simultaneously. Do not resist anything. You let the shrinking happen.
Okay.
A bit as if everything was happening, not to you per se, but in the body, as if you were like an immense, dense space without any organs. You let everything change within. You do nothing. Ah,
Hmm.
voilà.
Just experience.
Feel it change. That's it. Just the sensations.
It feels like they've wanted this attention for a while, or whatever this sensation is.
How is it within now?
It's more peaceful.
Open your eyes. Okay.
That was interesting about the breath because maybe I was using that as a way to chase the feeling away. And that's exactly what we're trying not to do here.
That's right. And that's very common.
Mm,
It's uncomfortable to stay with the sensations. That's why we always control them.
bingo.
So we're gonna do one last check-in just to see, or just 2 minutes if it's okay.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
we started. It's okay, Josh?
Go, go, go.
Do you remember, like at the beginning, you started with the to-do list? Did you have an image of the to-do list? What? How did you replay the memory?
Um, like tell you again what happened.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like this to-do list. The moment when the emotions start, what do you see? What's in front of you? Put me there.
I have here's a version of it. I don't know if you know Jocko Willink. I use his prioritize and execute
Okay.
list. So it's like filled with things and notes. Uh, and that's overwhelming, but it feels good to check them off. But as soon as I see this, I get the
Okay. And do you remember on that day when you saw the thing about social media? See if you can retrieve the memory just like earlier.
with your social media.
Do you know when you were putting things on Instagram on that day? We started the session with that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
See if you can replay the memory. See if you can retrieve the memory when the emotions start.
As soon as I open up Instagram, well, maybe even prior to.
Let's try to
So,
take this. Yeah, let's try to take the same memory from than earlier when you look what you said, what you looked at the list, at the to-do list.
yep. And it started to hit then, and it was like a force to even get to the actual list.
So now, when you're ready, I will invite you to close your eyes and to see this to-do list again, exactly as you did on that day. Let me know when it plays in your mind.
Got it.
What are the sensations in your body right now?
It's not as bad.
Open your eyes. Yeah. So there's more work to do because it's a complex, human beings are complex, right? This
Yeah.
little thing with social media is not only one thing, right? It's like,
Yeah.
and there is, often when I do sessions, I say that just for you to know during the session, I'm going to be kind of a dick because it's important to there's something, we could have pushed a little bit, like, what is your damage, right? What are you afraid that people will see,
Yes.
right? And we're not going to do that here. It's not appropriate. But it's from a little something like this, social media. Yeah, it's not big deal. But this, of course, there's so many things at play. And so in a session, we're going to go not only into this blockage with social media,
Mm.
but around everything. Like this is just the top of the iceberg, right? We're going to go inside and resolve as many conscious, unconscious, and superconscious fear as we can.
That's amazing. Yeah. It does feel less. I still feel the resistance, but it's not as strong as it was.
There's more work to do.
Yeah. So I
But
imagine
but
in session we would keep
oh yeah,
revisiting over and over and over. Yes.
yeah. And also in a session, it will maybe feel a bit safer because nobody is watching, you know.
True.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
that too. But the thing is, when you feel an emotion, doesn't matter what, right? When you feel the emotion, you can do self-MRES, which is like, okay, close your eyes and feel the sensations in the body. It's important to feel at least two sensations at once. Because if you only feel one sensation, you're gonna go and think.
Interesting.
You've got to feel 2 to 3 sensations at once to overwhelm the cognitive with sensations.
I love that. Okay.
And then feeling, one of the difficulty of this work is that people become passive. So that means they stop feeling and they start thinking about something. Then it doesn't work. Feeling is an intense action. That means if I don't have any intensity in my arm right now, my cup is going to collapse.
Mm.
When you feel the sensation, your attention is intense, active in feeling what's going on until the sensations change and abate. But feeling, people don't see it as it's an action. If you
Yes.
stop feeling, you're gonna start thinking, and that's fuck.
Yes. Then we're off. Yeah. I love that. So two or more sensations will prevent the mind from going to the monkey mind, however you want to call it. The storylines, the narratives,
That's right. And your intensity, the intensity of your attention into feeling without controlling.
without controlling. Like the breath.
Like the breath, for example, or the self-soothing or stretching. People are like, oh, my back. No,
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
let it hurt. Like it's okay. It's not gonna last long, but be with it.
Yeah, sort of like just let its heart break in a way. Like
That's right.
let it do what it needed to do. Yeah.
Some people sometimes they feel like people die, right? Feel like let yourself die. It's okay. Your chair is gonna catch you. It's just a
Yeah.
fear.
It feels a lot like grief work in a way. Uh,
It's yeah. Yeah.
That's so
The carryover between I love that you said like I'm a dick in the session. In fitness, everyone thinks that like a drill sergeant is what you need to produce good results, like in the weight room. But the reality is what you're really doing is you're being relentless about where their attention is.
That's right.
Because if the attention is in the correct place, it's almost impossible to screw up the actual activity. And when I'm teaching somebody how to do a squat or a deadlift or a push up, I put them in a position to where they can't help but do it correctly. And I'll be unforgiving about making sure that they understand and feel what the correct movement is. But I don't care. It's 1 pound or 1,000 pounds. You're not going to impress me. What you'll impress me with is the good technique and keeping the technique the same the entire time, because I know that that's what develops the nervous system in the body. And the amount of effort is not really not really the key. Yes, it takes attention and effort to keep your attention in the right place, but it's very much like if you've got the structure correct, then you can be imperfect with your execution and still get great results.
That's ethic for me, right? It's not when I say being a dick, it's just to make fun of it, but it's ethical.
yeah.
When there is something, I could be kind or nice or tiptoe, or I can be ethical and try to take this time that we have together and make it as um beneficial or whatever name we want to put, in.
Productive.
So it's
Yeah.
it's yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it makes sense. And I think a lot of men would respond to that too. We like to be directive sometimes or mentored in that way.
It
Not
brings safety,
let-
right?
It does bring safety, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a good strong man is in the room with me. Thank God I can kind of just kind of let down that guard a little bit.
Yeah. And
It's wonderful.
get
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love that I love your language. The use of the term ethical in that implied is that it's unethical to waste your time. It's also unethical to be off mission.
That's right.
You're on mission. Like there isn't anything else that's happening now except for moving forward, and that's it.
That's attention. For me, that's attention.
Mm,
It's a matrix, right? When we start working, we enter a matrix, and that's it. That's the matrix. That's it.
beautiful.
Yeah.
No notes, 5 stars. Uh, we're gonna put your website in the show notes. We will obviously sing your praises. Anything that you have coming up that you want to tell people about, Cedric?
But first of all, thank you, Miles, for being willing to do that. You know, it's not a lot of people will be willing to do so. So
Of course. I've
thanks.
done plenty of these things in my training over the years. I'm
Great.
sort of used to it, but yeah, it's always a little unnerving.
Yeah,
But thank you for saying thank you. I appreciate that.
sure. No, nothing much. Just check out the work. Go to emotionalhealthinstitute.org. We have some practitioner training happening in March. So if people who are therapists, coaches, firemen, policemen, HR professional who want to learn this work, we're doing professional trainings. The next one is 14, 15, and 16 of March. It's
March.
online and live. And then we have advanced courses as well for like EmRes for the body. So when you have symptoms such as pain or eczema, how to enter the symptom to resolve all the subconscious fear that create the symptom.
Wow.
So that's something that we developed a couple of years ago, and it works absolutely wonderful. And reach out if you have any question.
I love it. Yeah, we're gonna sing your praises.
Thank you. Thank you
Really
very much.
appreciate you coming on. I may have to go check that conference out. That sounds great.
Yeah,
But
please. It's the one with Gabor Mate and such.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a
looks
great
awesome.
it's a great mingle of people. Absolutely. There's
Well,
a free, by the way, there's a free replay happening on February 8th, I think, where you can have
really?
everybody for free. Yeah, 8th. I think it's February 8th and 9th. I'm gonna post it on social media if people want
Okay.
to jump in for free. Yeah.
I'll link your social media as well. But yeah,
Hey, can't wait to see you do that. See how you feel about see how you feel about it.
there we go. It's much easier now.
That's exactly right.
But
That's
it's yours,
exactly
so
right.
it's easy.
Uh,
I
Thank you,
appreciate you
Cedric.
helping me, walking me through this. This has
oh
been
man,
wonderful.
anytime. Yeah, of
Well,
course.
hope to have you back on sometime as you keep developing what you're developing, and I hope the world gets this message spread more because it does split the difference between the cognitive and the somatic, and I think with IFS and EMDR, it's different, but it's the same. But this is different. There's
Yeah.
something quite different here that's not. It feels new, right? It feels new
It's
and
it's
emerging.
it's it's different. A lot of people think, oh, that's a little bit like sure, maybe. I don't know. But that's definitely our obsession is to cut through the chase.
There we
Like to
go.
cut through the chase and to be as respectful and efficient as we can with for people.
Brilliant. I love it.
Amen, brother. Well, appreciate you so much, Cedric. Thanks for teaching us and sharing your time with us. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Be well, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Likewise. Until the next.
Until the next time.
Bye bye.